9 spine-chilling and sinister true horror stories from haunted Appalachia exposed at last. As the Johnson family arrived in the aging hills of Appalachia, a creeping fog rolled over the mountains. The air was thick, heavy with secrets. A dilapidated house awaited them, its cracked windows like eyes that stared into their very souls. The townsfolk had whispered warnings, cautionary tales of shadows lingering in the edges of their vision and voices calling from beyond the grave. Little did the Johnsons know, they'd stepped into a world where nightmares were stitched into the very fabric of the earth. At first, Sam was ecstatic. He stood in the yard, arms outstretched, spinning in delight. 12 years old and brimming with curiosity, he envisioned adventures in the sprawling woods. Mia, his older sister, rolled her eyes at their parents' fresh start. She sensed something was off, but their excitement swept her concerns away. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the house creaked ominously, shadows flickering against the peeling wallpaper. It started with whispers. Soft, almost imperceptible, swirling around as night fell. Sam's heart raced as he lay in bed, the silence wrapping around him like a shroud. He felt the chill creep in, rasping against his skin. The sound of low murmurs grew louder, far too familiar, like a chant. He slid out of bed, the wood flooring cold and unforgiving beneath his feet. As he followed those sinister sounds in the corner of his room, something caught his eye. Mysterious symbols etched into the floorboard sent a shiver down his spine. They danced in the dim light, each line telling a story laden with darkness. Sam's mind whirred with possibilities, but dread insidiously crept in with each heartbeat. What had they stumbled into? As nights bled into days, the tension in the Johnson family grew. Sam caught snippets of hushed conversations between his parents, urgent whispers cocooned in worry. They spoke of neighbors who disappeared under the cloak of night, leaving nothing but echoes of their absence. The tales twisted around his thoughts like a vine, ideas of urban legends and curses that seemed to pulse within the hills themselves. Feeling increasingly isolated, Sam roamed the neighborhood, his mind set on discovery. He was drawn to Mrs. Hargrove, their elderly neighbor whose knowing eyes glinted in the moonlight. She appeared as if summoned, ghost-like whenever Sam needed answers, her presence both comforting and disconcerting. "Stay away from the past, child," she whispered one day, a tremor quaking in her voice, sending chills racing down Sam's spine. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One fateful evening, tension had driven the Johnsons to escape their haunted abode for some air. Underneath a blanket of stars, they stumbled across an abandoned barn shrouded in mist. The atmosphere thickened around them like a tightening noose. It felt as if they were walking into something alive. The barn creaked and groaned, the very boards moaning a harmony of despair, and silhouettes writhed in the corners of their vision. What they discovered within was too heavy to bear. Remnants of darkness lingered, not just from years of neglect but from an energy that had haunted this very place. Sam's pounding heart echoed the truth unfolding in his mind. There was a cursed tradition buried beneath the town's facade. It preyed on innocence, feeding off those who dared to forget. As a cold gust blew through, the eyes of the unknown seemed to peer from the shadows. With every breath sensing the weight of unseen watchers. Dread clawed through Sam. He stood at the barn's entrance, frozen. A thought crept in: had they already succumbed to the darkness? What roles would they play in this sinister legacy unfolding around them? Each step into that haunting, forgotten past felt increasingly impossible to escape. Mia had decided to explore the woods the following day, hoping to shake the heaviness that clung to her like a shroud. Maybe the answers she sought lay hidden among the trees, away from the watchful eyes of the old barn. She ventured deeper, the ground crunching beneath her sneakers, each sound amplifying her solitude. The air hung thick with dampness, and despite being daytime, an unnatural gloom persisted. As she wandered, Mia stumbled upon a narrow path, almost overgrown, winding like a serpent toward the dense forest. The world beyond was dark and foreboding, but she felt an inexplicable pull to follow it. With every step, she could hear the whispers again, a blend of distant laughter and soft sobbing voices that sparked curiosity and dread in equal measure. Every so often, she glanced over her shoulder, feeling the weight of unseen eyes upon her. Shadows flitted just beyond her peripheral vision, dancing among the trees. "It's just my imagination," she muttered to herself, trying to stifle her rising anxiety. Yet, the deeper she went, the more she felt as if she wasn't alone. A clearing opened before her, revealing an old stone well, weathered and ancient, surrounded by agitated shadows. The air shifted as she approached, heavy with the scent of earth and decay. She felt compelled to lean over the edge, peering into the dark void below. Just then, she heard the unmistakable sound of laughter. It was childlike, joyous, echoing from below. It made her heart race and blood run cold. How could there be laughter from such a place? "Sam!" she called, her voice trembling slightly. No answer came, just the chilling echo of her own words bouncing back at her. Gritting her teeth, she turned to leave, but something caught her eye: an inscription on the stones surrounding the well, worn but still legible. It conveyed secrets she wished she hadn't uncovered. Ritual of return. To reclaim what was lost, one must pay the price. Mia's pulse thundered as realization hit her. Was this the curse Mrs. Hargrove warned about? Was this the fate of those whose names were lost in the town's history? Panic surged through her veins. She stumbled backward, but the ground felt unsteady beneath her. The laughter grew louder, wrapping around her like a cold blanket. Suddenly, Samuel's voice pierced through the chaotic whispers. "Mia!" he yelled, his voice distant yet frantic. "Mia! The barn!" he exclaimed as he broke through the underbrush, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and urgency. "We need to go back. It's not safe here." Hearing her brother's voice felt like both a lifeline and a warning. She turned just as the shadows thickened around the edges of the clearing, inching closer, whispering her name in a sinister chorus. Panic seized her heart, and without a second thought, she ran to Sam, the well forgotten. They sprinted back through the winding trails, hearts pounding, the forest seeming to come alive around them. The laughter morphed into high-pitched shrieks that echoed through the trees, blending with the rustle of leaves and the snapping of twigs under their hurried steps. As they stumbled back toward the barn, they realized the nightly whispers were rising to a crescendo, intermingling with their own frantic breaths. The forest felt alive, hungry. What awaited them in the barn's shadows? Sam and Mia exchanged horrified glances, understanding now that some truths were meant to stay buried. The barn loomed before them, an open maw hungry to swallow them whole. As they dared to step inside, the air darkened, and the whispers began to chant and name their names. What were they about to awaken, and would they be too late to escape its grasp? The barn's door creaked ominously as they pushed it open, revealing a space shrouded in shadows and dust. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood and old straw, the silence almost deafening apart from their ragged breaths. Mia and Sam exchanged frantic glances, knowing they couldn't stay, but feeling an invisible weight pulling them back. "Stay close," Sam whispered, eyes darting around. The whispers returned, louder now, echoing through the barn like a suffocating fog. Mia felt tears prick at her eyes. The laughter lingered, teasing them from the corners where light couldn't reach. Overhead, the rafters creaked, almost as if the barn was alive, awakening from a deep slumber. "Sam," Mia said slowly, her voice quaking, "what if we don't leave? What if something comes for us?" "Nothing's going to come for us," he shot back, attempting to bolster their fading bravado. He took a step inside, heart hammering against his chest. "We need to find a way out. The well, something's connected to it." They crept deeper into the barn, shadows shifting with every move. The whispers coiled around them, muttering secrets and mockery. It felt like a living entity, wrapping its icy fingers around their throats. In the far corner, something glinted in the darkness. Mia hesitated, her instincts screaming at her to turn back. But Sam moved forward, curiosity piquing despite the overwhelming dread crawling up his spine. He grabbed Mia's hand, dragging her along. "What is it?" Mia asked breathlessly. "Just a toy or something." A flicker of recognition crossed Sam's features, a twisted grin surfacing. "Remember those old dolls we found in that creepy shop?" They approached, and the object came into view. It was an old porcelain doll, its face cracked, eyes grotesquely bright, seemingly fixated on them. There was a chilling familiarity about it, as if it had seen darkness far beyond their own. The whispers grew frantic, wrapping tighter around their minds. "This isn't just a doll, is it?" Mia whispered, heart racing. "This is part of the curse." Before Sam could respond, the barn doors slammed shut behind them with a thunderous clap. The sudden noise echoed like a gunshot, reverberating through their bones. Panic igniting a primal fear they had only read about in stories. They rushed back to the door, pounding against it. "Let us out!" Sam cried, but the wood remained unyielding, strong against their frantic assault. The laughter now pierced through the air, mocking them like a cruel game. It wasn't just the voices of children, the tone twisted, distorted, blending into something dark and unknown. Darkness closed in around them, and Mia felt her breath catch in her throat. She backed into a wall, sliding down to the ground as the anguish and despair coursed through her. "Sam, we need to hide. It's coming," she warned, not knowing if she meant the whispers or something more sinister that lurked just beyond sight. Sam looked down at her, eyes wide with fear. "Where?" he gasped, the feral shadows stretching like claws, reaching for them. They pressed deeper into the barn's shadows, but the air grew heavy, oppressive. Suddenly, from the darkness, the doll began to laugh, its haunting sound mingling with the chaos around them. To reclaim what was lost it echoed, a voice that was not its own. "Pay the price." Mia squeezed her eyes shut, praying this was just a nightmare. But when she opened them again, something was moving in the shadows, something tall and dark, dripping with malice. What would it demand, and could they even afford the price? The shadows thickened around Mia and Sam, enveloping them in a claustrophobic embrace. The laughter of the doll turned into a cacophony of shrill giggles echoing off the barn walls, drowning out their panic. Sam grabbed Mia's arm tighter, a protective instinct surging through him, but every breath only brewed the fear deeper. "Sam, we need to." But before she could finish, the darkness surged forward, stretching at them, hungry and relentless. A figure emerged, dark and elongated, as if it were made from the very shadows that swirled around the barn. An insidious smile stretched across its face, void of any warmth, glittering eyes locked onto their terror. "Stay or leave," it purred, the sound slithering through the air, chilling Mia to her core. Either way the cost must be paid. Mia's heart raced, hammering against her ribs. The well, hadn't they come to find something connected to it? A memory flickered in her mind, pulling at her consciousness. "Sam, what if it's all tied to the well? We need to find out." "Not without a plan," he hissed back as the figure drew closer, its movement graceful yet unsettling, like a predator closing in on prey. The barn's very structure seemed to tremble with each deliberate step it took, urging them into action. "Where do we go?" Mia's voice wavered, panic overwhelming her thoughts. The dim light barely illuminated a path ahead, but her instinct screamed to move, to escape the grasp of the dark. The whispers grew louder, a storm of disembodied voices swirling around them. "Pay the price, pay the price." Mia spun around, the oppressive air constricting her chest. There had to be a way out. They couldn't stay here, not when shadows could reach out and consume them. She saw a faint glow in the corner of the barn. Was it hope, or a trick of the darkness? "Sam!" She tugged at his sleeve, pulling him toward the light. "This way." But hesitation clawed at him, battle-worn conviction battling sheer terror. "What if it's a trap? We don't have a choice," she yelled, practically dragging him along. The laughter of the doll echoed again, swelling through the shadows, a monstrous mockery that compelled them forward, guiding them to the light. As they approached, the glow pulsed with a spectral energy, illuminating the walls carved with strange symbols, bad omens etched deep into the wood. Mia stopped dead in her tracks. Do you see that? It looks like something like a ritual. I don't care what it is. Sam urged, panic lining his face. We need to get out, and we need to find that well. But just as they reached the source of the light, the ground trembled beneath their feet. The barn's walls shivered, groaning in discontent, and the creature's grin widened, hunger in its gaze. Only through sacrifice will you find your way, it whispered, voice echoing from the deepest pit of the barn. Shadows wreathed around them, coiling tighter, and the air grew colder. Mia's heart dropped. What does that mean? Something shifted in the darkness. The doll floated before them, suspended in mid-air, its laugh melding with the echoes of the figure. One must be given to free the other. An awful realization struck her, a dread so profound it stole her breath. The price. Sacrifice. Sam, I want to let them take you. Mia screamed, terror flooding her system as she glanced back at the looming figure, its claw-like hands reaching out, but before she could react, the figure advanced, rushing forward like a storm. The choice is now, make it. As the tension peaked, Mia's mind raced. Save Sam. Or herself. A scream tore from her throat as the light flickered, threatening to plunge them back into darkness. What awaited them on the other side of their choice? The laughter transformed into a bone-chilling chorus, drowning everything in its depth. Whatever came next, the truth would reveal itself, and a decision had to be made before the shadows devoured them whole. Mia felt the weight of the decision crash upon her like a tidal wave. Adrenaline coursed through her veins as she fought to gather her thoughts, but they were slippery, like fish darting between her fingers. The figure loomed closer, its smile widening into something grotesque, a taunting reminder that time was running out. Sam! We can't let it take you! She shouted, clenching her fists, heart racing. The glow flickered, teasing them, but the chill seeped deeper, gnawing at her skin and rattling her bones. The laughter grew louder, surrounding them, mocking their fear. It's not just about me, Mia. Sam yelled back, eyes darting from the figure to the doll hovering ominously. What if you have to know? We're getting out of here together. Desperation clung to her voice. Mia couldn't lose him, not to whatever that thing was waiting to claim its prize. The figure's laughter harmonized with the doll's, merging into a sick melody that echoed through the barn, filling the air with threat and promise. Choose, it purred, choose your love or despair. Mia clutched her chest. The walls felt like they were closing in, the symbols scrawled across them thrumming with latent energy, each groove whispering of ancient horrors. Her mind raced. What had they activated? Was this some twisted ritual meant to ensnare them? Maybe we can trick it, Sam proposed, barely above a whisper. If we act like we're willing to choose, maybe no tricks. Mia snapped, panic rising again. This isn't a game. It wants us to crumble at its feet. The laughter crescendoed, each peal sending shivers down her spine, as if it had a viscous life of its own. They had stumbled into a nightmare, and she refused to give in. The glow pulsed with urgency, it was their only chance. We need to break the ritual. She strained against the tide of darkness wrapping around them. Sam, the symbols, they might give us a way out. Or they could be the reason we're stuck here. Sam shot back, voice trembling. What if we end up giving more than we intended? Mia felt an icy grip on her heart. Could she ever forgive herself if they lost? The figure advanced, shadows swirling like smoke, filling the air with an acrid bitterness. The well, you have to go to the well. But the price is steep. A thought brushed against her mind, rising to the surface. The diary from the museum, the warnings, what had it said about the well? It had mentioned losing something precious. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Sam, we need to go to the well. The dark figure halted, cocking its head, a twisted curiosity suffusing its grotesque features. Will you not weigh the cost first? One must be offered to escape without waiting for a response. Mia grabbed Sam's hand, her resolve hardening. "I'd rather risk everything than stay here." They surged forward towards the dim glow, but a current of shadows pulled at them, forcing them into a frozen stance, held captive by unseen fingers. "Are you willing to sacrifice your bond?" The figure hissed, curling its fingers like claws. "Only one may leave. The other must stay." Panic surged through Mia. "Sam, I can't let you stay. I'll find a way to free you. I swear." "Don't say that." Sam's voice rushed out, filled with raw emotion. "If something happens to you enough." The specter roared, its voice a harbinger of doom. "Now, the choice falls to you." The air thickened around them, each second stretching into eternity, weighing down their hearts. Mia's vision blurred, the glow flickering as doubt crept in. Would she be making a grave mistake? "Sam, but that was when the doll giggled again, a sound sharper than glass, cutting through their frantic thoughts. As Mia's grip tightened on Sam's hand, the darkness began to swirl faster, and she could feel something wrapping around her legs, binding her to the ground. "Choose. Choose." The voices shrieked, drowning out her thoughts. In that moment of chaos, a question loomed larger than fear itself: what would she sacrifice to save Sam? Mia squeezed her eyes shut, feeling the shadows closing in. She wouldn't let the darkness take them, but would love alone be enough to sever their fate? As the shadows danced closer, as everything around them began to fade, a choice loomed, sharper than the knife edge of despair. Mia's heart hammered as tendrils of shadow coiled around her, squeezing tighter. She could barely breathe, the weight of despair threatening to crush her under its cold grip. "Sam!" She gasped, her voice a whisper now, barely cutting through the cacophony of chaos that surrounded them. The dim radiance from the symbols flickered violently, throwing sharp shadows across the barn walls. The laughter echoed maliciously, wrapping around them like a taunting embrace. Mia's mind raced, she could feel it, something monstrous just beyond the veil of their reality, lurking and watching. It thrived on their fear, its grotesque form looming ever closer. "Focus!" she urged herself, trying to drown out the horror. Memories of warm summer days spent laughing with Sam blurred through her mind, a lifeline she desperately clung to. "We can break this, we have to." Sam's eyes, wide with panic, reflected the swirling darkness. The figure's claws recoiled, a lingering promise of suffering glinting within its malevolent smile. "The well awaits, it calls for your decision," it hissed, the voice dripping with glee, as if relishing their torment. "What is worth fighting for? What will you sacrifice?" "I won't leave you," Mia cried, shaking her head violently, trying to dispel the dark promise that echoed through the barn. The symbols pulsated in a sinister rhythm, as if they were alive, sensing her defiance, feeding on her uncertainty. "Sam, remember the diary. We can lure it away, go to the well together. Whatever it takes," she breathed, desperation coloring her tone. "Forcing a bond may break us, Mia." He replied, eyes darting nervously to the dark figure, which swayed unsettlingly. Shadows writhed, twisting like serpents, licking at their legs and anchoring them deeper into the floor. "This isn't just a choice, it's a curse." With the chilling realization that they might be losing time, Mia clenched Sam's hand tighter. "We have to believe it will work." The air crackled with tension. She studied the symbols' chaotic, intricate designs that might hold the key to their escape. The futility of their struggle crept in. Was it possible to manipulate the darkness against itself? What if the sacrifice demanded was not just their bond, but something more profound? "Do you love me enough to risk it?" Sam's voice broke through her thoughts, heavy with meaning. The shadows seemed to pause, holding their breath. In that fleeting moment, Mia studied his face, the hope, the fear, the unwavering connection they had built. It anchored her against the dread clawing at her balance. "I'd sacrifice anything for you," she declared, her heart igniting with fierce determination. The laughter shattered the silence, morphing into a growl of anger. "Only one shall leave. Look within yourself, absent love or lost spirit, one must pay. Sam's face turned to stone, but the flicker of hope ignited in his eyes mirrored her own. The bond, maybe we just have to show it, we one T choose. We will stand together. He shouted, voice resolute as their sunken fear lifted slightly. As the darkness surged one last time, a sharp pain bit into Mia's chest, an echo of her soul pushed to its limits. The symbols shrieked, lighting up with a radiant glow that pierced through the shadows and momentarily revealed hints of the barn's true form. Cracked wood and brittle hay encased the suffocating atmosphere. No. The figure snarled, rage radiating from it in waves. In that moment of sheer defiance, Mia and Sam surged toward each other. The energy around them pulsed violently, and with one final cry, they raced toward the well, shadows clinging to them like a desperate child. But as they neared the cold stone structure, an unseen force slammed them back, sending shockwaves through the air. The figure's laughter resonated louder than ever, drowning out their cries. Time is slipping. Will you gamble your souls? Mia braced herself, heart pounding, ghosts of desperation clawing at her. Together, or not at all. She yelled, the glow from the symbols blasting fiercely, blinding her vision. Just before everything collapsed into a whirlpool of shadows pulling at her consciousness, Mia inhaled deeply, preparing to face whatever consequences awaited her, but as her breath caught in her throat, she felt the chilling touch of fingers grazing her skin, the reality of her choice manifesting. What awaited them within the shadow's depths, and what dangers would merely be the beginning? The air thickened as darkness swirled around them, a living entity hungry for despair. Mia's heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out the cruel laughter that echoed from all corners of the barn. Shadows writhed, creeping closer, and she felt Sam's grip tighten, his warmth a fleeting comfort against the encroaching chill. Don't look back, Sam murmured, his voice a whisper almost lost in the wave of darkness. Together, they stumbled toward the well, an ominous void that now felt like both a promise and a curse. The symbols lit up once more, casting jagged lines of light that sliced through the gloom, reflecting a nightmarish dance on their faces. Trust the light. Mia shouted, urging Sam forward as the shadows lashed out with ravenous intent, scraping along their skin with icy fingers. The air vibrated with a hum, a chorus of whispers that promised agony and despair. As they veered closer, Mia caught a glimpse of what lay in the depths of the well, darkness so profound it threatened to swallow them whole. Do you see it? She panted, eyes wide with terror. We need to get to the edge. I can't, Sam gasped, his voice strained. We're too late. Suddenly, the laughter morphed into a screech of fury, and the figure lunged at them, clawed hands reaching for their souls. You think you can escape? One must fall for the others to stand. The voice slithered through the air, tainted with venom. Mia refused to allow fear to paralyze her. It's a lie. She screamed, her heart racing faster than her mind. We aren't giving up. With renewed urgency, they sped toward the well. The shadows flared, retreating for a heartbeat, only to surge back towards them more fiercely. Visibility waned, and she felt an electric charge in the air as if the very fabric of reality was tearing apart. Hold tight. Mia shouted, her body surging with adrenaline. She grasped for Sam, pulling him closer, their breaths mingling in the swirling abyss. We can face it together, but we have to jump. The cruel laughter filled the space, mocking their resolve, as shadows whipped around them, dragging at their feet. You can't leave without a sacrifice. Mia's stomach twisted. We need the diary. It could stop it. Sam yelled, eyes wild. It's going to kill us. We have to save ourselves. Choose no. There's always a way. She screamed, defiance igniting her spirit. In a moment of sheer clarity, she felt the symbols pulse beside her, illuminating a path toward the well's crumbling edge. Step back. She urged, tightening her grip on Sam's hand. The darkness roared, an anguished cry that reverberated within the barn walls. With a surge of strength, Mia pulled Sam closer, inching away from the impending disaster. She spotted a glimmer, a distorted reflection of what was lost within the abyss. The well wasn't just a gateway, it was a choice, a reflection of their fears and the love they could harness. Together. She cried, drawing strength from their connection. The moment felt electric, but sudden dread rushed back as the laughter turned to screams of rage, the shadows thickening, crescendoing into a tempest of fury. The symbols exploded with blinding light, and in that sparkling brilliance, Mia felt the world tip sideways. The air crackled, a terrible surge wrenching at their bodies as the well loomed above them, then, before she could make sense of it, the ground beneath their feet fractured. Sam was pulled away from her grasp, his eyes wide with panic. "Mia!" he shouted, helpless as the darkness crowned him, binding him back. The last flickers of light dimmed, and the chasm of the well loomed bigger. "No. I want to let you go." Mia lunged, the words tearing out in sheer desperation. But the shadows consumed him, pulling him into the suffocating void. "Mia, go!" he yelled, his voice fading, lost in swirling black. The specter of hope drowned in an abyss of despair, Mia gasped, the world piercing through her like ice. The weight of the choice slammed down on her, one soul for another, sacrifice wrapped in love and fear. Should she plunge into the well, risk it all? Or claim what little light remained? Abandoning the one she loved to save herself? As the well beckoned her with its vicious whispers, Mia felt a cold, terrible clarity settling over her. In the fray of turmoil, the shadows wriggled, taunting her. What choice would unravel the curse? And as the last glimmers of hope flickered away, she knew the darkest part of the story was yet to come. What if the decision rested on a truth and a betrayal, one that would change everything she thought she knew? Mia's heart raced, pounding in her chest like a wild animal trying to escape a trap. The darkness coiled around her, a constricting shroud that stifled every breath. Sam's anguished face lingered in her mind, his scream still echoing like thunder in her ears. "Mia, go!" His voice pushed through the storm of obscurity. She could still feel the warmth of his hand, the connection that had anchored her sanity. But it was slipping away, lost in the relentless grip of malevolence. She turned back to the well, the pit yawning like a mouth ready to swallow her whole and betray everything she believed. The symbols around it pulsated with eerie light, tempting her to cross the threshold. Could she really step into the darkness when Sam had just been consumed? No. "I can still save him," she screamed into the abyss, her voice barely rising over the cacophony of shadows. Despair clawed at her, dragging her closer to the precipice. But deep down, an unsettling thought took root. What if this was a trap? What if the darkness wanted her to jump? Mia pondered the diary Sam had mentioned, a conduit for answers that might illuminate this terrifying mess. It was buried in the shadows, an echo of forgotten lore that could harbor secrets vital to their survival. Frantically, she brushed her shaking hands across the barn floor, searching for it among the wreckage of fear. Footsteps echoed behind her, and she turned. A shadow shifted, forming into a figure cloaked in darkness. "You seek the truth," it hissed, voice sinuous, teasing. "But truth often leads to pain. Where's the diary?" Mia faltered, terror rising in her throat like bile. The figure laughed softly. "You think it holds the key? Oh, but dear girl, knowledge is a burden. Are you ready for its weight?" Each word dripped with foreboding, but the need drove her forward. "Please just tell me where it is." The figure receded, melting back into the shadows, but not before pointing toward the far wall of the barn. "Buried in your fears. Find it, and perhaps you can find him too." The shadows thickened again around her, whispering venomous secrets. "Trust nothing. Not even yourself." A cold fear gripped her, tightening like a vice. She lunged towards the wall, her hands clawing at the dirt and grime, frantically scraping away the facade. The whispers intensified, wrapping around her like barbed wire, mocking her desperation. Just beneath the surface, something hard shifted under her fingers. A small, leather-bound object, worn but familiar. The diary. She gasped, wrenching it free. The symbols ignited once more, and the air shimmered with energy, swirling around her. Unraveling the contents, she rifled through pages filled with frantic scrawl, desperate to harness each word. Instinct screamed at her with warning, but hope surged with the realization that this could be her last shot. "Sam," she whispered, feeling the weight of the diary urging her on. The pages spoke of rituals, sacrifices, and dark choices. But did she dare use them? Just as she started to decipher the first line, a horrifying cry sliced through the barn's stillness. "Mia!" Sam's voice echoed again, sharper now, filled with unearthly torment. Her blood chilled as the walls shook, shadows writhing as if disturbed by a last breath of life. No, no, no. Panic set in, and she stumbled backward, clutching the diary. "Make a choice." The spectral voice roared, shards of laughter mingling with despair. "It can save him at a price." Mia hesitated, the gravity of those words weighing heavily on her. The diary's contents began to swirl in her mind, corrupting her judgment. Could she bring Sam back? What sacrifice would she have to endure? Just as she felt she might grasp salvation, the barn erupted into chaos, the walls closing in. The air vibrated with whispers louder than thunder, the shadows gathering a body of their own, clawing at her spirit. Then she sensed an unseen force pulling her towards the edge of the well again. Time stretched and twisted, and reality seemed to warp. Would she risk everything, including her very soul, to bring back the one she loved? The darkness howled around her as she faced the terrifying question. Standing at the threshold of courage and dread, Mia knew she had to make her move. But would she unravel the curse or entangle herself further in its web? Mia's hands shook as she gripped the diary tighter, her pulse pounding in her ears. The very air buzzed with malevolence, like a living force begging her to choose, to fall deeper into the pit of despair. She could still hear Sam's voice, a ghostly echo promising salvation while warning of the price. Make a choice. The phantom words spiraled around her, taunting her, filling her with dread. With frantic energy, she flicked through the diary, her breath hitching on every word. Rituals, incantations, promises of power, but at what cost? Would using its secrets save Sam or condemn them both to eternal darkness? The pages felt alive beneath her fingertips, pulsing with energy that was both enticing and repulsive. A cold gust swept through the barn, extinguishing any semblance of warmth. Shadows twisted grotesquely, forming images that taunted her with flashes of Sam's torment. Despair twisted her gut. Each cry sounded more desperate, echoing like an unholy refrain amplifying her internal struggle. Can sacrifice be worth the pain? She murmured, glancing at the well's depths, its dark mouth threatening to swallow her whole. Her resolve began to waver. Time continued to stretch, the boundaries of reality blurring like the edge of an old photograph. The whispers grew louder, circling her like vultures waiting for her frail spirit to falter completely. Mia fought the urge to drown out their insistent hiss, reminding herself of the boy she loved. Focus, Mia, she chanted under her breath, willing herself to concentrate on the page before her. Yet, her eyes were drawn back to the well, the prison of shadows that had taken Sam away. Suddenly, she recalled a passage, something about a blood offering. Her pulse quickened at the thought. No, she breathed, tears streaming down her face. What was she willing to give? Would it be enough? Find it. The voice hissed again, growing fainter yet more insistent. Succeed, and your love will return. Maxing out every ounce of courage, she plunged headfirst into the diary's contents, her mind racing. A frenzy of images exploded behind her eyes, cutting, bleeding, binding. Each phrase pulled her deeper, wrapping around her consciousness like steel bars. Desperation surged, igniting a flicker of reckless bravery. Time dripped like molasses, suffocating her. Then, all at once, the barn trembled violently, the floorboards quaking and splintering beneath her feet. A monstrous entity roared, a wave of raw fury rippling through the darkness. Mia! Sam cried out again, his voice choked with anguish. Suddenly, she knew she couldn't delay any longer. She felt a fiery determination igniting within her, a dark ember ready to blaze. With a trembling finger, she traced a sigil on the page, heart pounding against her ribs. She was ready, or perhaps she was just desperate enough to try that moment. An otherworldly light flickered from the open well, casting long shadows that danced wickedly on the walls. All around her, the whispers grew into a deafening crescendo, the sound flooding her mind with memories of Sam and the fleeting joy of their laughter. With the supernatural energy climbing higher, Mia took a deep breath and concluded the incantation. The world trembled as she spoke the final words, nearly drowned out by the chaos. The symbols around the well ignited in a blinding light, illuminating the barn in stark contrast to the encroaching darkness, but as the echo of her voice faded, the sinister laughter returned, stronger than ever. "You think you can control this?" it taunted, reverberating against the walls. Then the terrifying realization struck her: what if she just unleashed something worse? The abyss crackled ominously, and she recoiled, her heart racing. A shadow surged forth, twisting through the air, and she felt an icy grip around her throat, dragging her closer to the brink of the well. "Help!" she screamed, panic erupting as her feet slipped. Mia was caught, teetering on the edge between salvation and annihilation. Could she pull Sam back and escape this pit before it swallowed her entire being? The shadows rushed forward, ready to claim their next victim. Just when it felt like darkness was about to consume her, a surge of warmth flooded through Mia, the energy from the incantation sparking something deep within her. She steadied herself against the icy grip around her throat, fighting to rise above the chaos that threatened to overwhelm her. The well's haunting whispers transformed into a harmonious echo, resonating with the core of her being. "Stand firm, Mia." She heard Sam's voice break through the depths of despair, though it felt so far away. Struggling, she focused on the connection they shared: the laughter, the adventures, the love that had tethered them together. "I want to let you go," she shouted, her words pulsating with fierce resolve. With every ounce of strength, she pulled away from the well's edge, redirecting that warm energy within herself and channeling it towards the symbols on the barn's walls. "You don't control me," she shouted defiantly, and to her surprise, the shadows recoiled as if wounded. An unexpected power danced through her fingertips as the symbols ignited with a blinding light, casting out the encroaching darkness like rays of hope piercing through clouds. "Together!" Mia roared, envisioning Sam beside her, calling out their memories, their bond, amplifying her strength tenfold. The whispers faded to pained howls as Mia pushed against that dark figure, closing in again, a twisted smile faltering. "You won't take him." In one cathartic moment, she stamped her feet against the ground, the earth vibrating with her resolution. The force rippled outward, sending tendrils of light across the barn, illuminating every corner, revealing hidden truths. The shadows shrieked but began to dissipate, the hold on them weakening with every heartbeat. "Sam, focus on me," she cried, her heart racing as she felt the pull towards the well weaken. "We can do this. Find the strength inside you." The darkness, now flickering and panicking, clawed at its own veil, scrambling to salvage its claim over them. "You think you can resist? Your bond is weak." It sneered, but as those words left its lips, Mia felt the strength of her love, young and vibrant, reclaiming what was theirs. "You are the weakness," she countered, and the symbols surged with life, pulsing in tandem with her fierce defiance. What was once unfathomable suddenly became clear. With all her heart, she unleashed the deeper meaning of their bond: acceptance, love, sacrifice, all coursing through her. The floor beneath them erupted with light, and the well bubbled angry and bright, a tempest at rest. As the shadows faded, Mia turned toward the glowing centerpiece of the barn, locks of darkness escaping like scattered leaves in a gust of wind. "Sam!" she called again, feeling his presence return to her. "We have to jump. Trust in us. Together!" he shouted back, voice growing clearer as the well's terrible shadow retreated. They surged forward as one, knowing there was no other choice left. Hand in hand, they leaped into the void of the well, feeling the air whistle around them like a cleansing wind. As they fell deeper and deeper, the sensation of weightlessness enveloped them. They held tightly to each other, secure in their connection, reclaiming the bond that had been threatened. With one final embrace, gusts of wind swirled around them, and from the depths of despair, they saw a flicker of light ahead, hope rising, piercing through the shadows that once held them captive. Then, as if propelled by a force unseen, they burst through the surface, like dolphins breaking through turbulent waters. They splashed into a world washed anew, the suffocating darkness left behind like a fading memory. The barn vanished behind them, the steep hills of Appalachia heavy with silence, but alive with new beginnings. Breathless, Mia looked at Sam. The relief felt palpable, almost soothing as every fear began to ebb away. A sob of joy broke free as she crushed him in an embrace, relief turning into giddy laughter. "Did we escape?" he whispered, wide-eyed, taking in their surroundings, an untouched clearing flooded with the light of the setting sun, promising a brighter day ahead. "We did," Mia whispered back, her heart swelling. "We're free." The weight they'd carried shrank under the warmth of their newfound freedom. They had faced the darkness together and emerged, bonded more than ever. With a gaze into the horizon, they knew they could take on whatever lay ahead. It was the end of the shadows, but the start of a new chapter, one where laughter could overcome fear, and love would always light the way. And just like that, the haunting Hill-s tales through which they walked no longer seemed sinister but merely echoes of what could have been. Before they stepped away, a chill swept over them, a reminder of how close they had come to losing it all. "Promise we won't let anything come between us again," Mia said, a fierce determination gleaming in her eyes. "I promise," Sam vowed, and as they walked toward home, they found not just freedom, but trust renewed. "Now, before you leave, I need you to do something crucial. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support means everything. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories. Let us get a conversation going. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. This is the moment to show your support and keep the stories coming. True fans understand the importance of these actions, so show us some love.